This is Ellen J. Mann, and welcome to the Honor Yourself First show, a place where you can go to get information and inspiration on rediscovering your life and having the life of your dreams and desires and the life that you deserve. And today, again, we have Janine Penner, who was a great guest host or great guest interviewer last week. And this week, we wanted to start off with talking about something that Janie had a question on. And you want to tell people what that question was from our last show?
That was the question about how experiences as a child can help shape your idea about something. So say you have a certain experience, and it might not necessarily be what's true about the world, but your perception of that experience shapes your belief about something for the rest of your life.
Right. It's an area that I'm just starting to really get my hands around too. But what we know is this. Between the ages when we were born and about 6 to 8 years old, our mind is actually on a different wavelength. We're in the theta wavelength. And right now, as adults, we operate in the alpha. And theta is that dream state. So as kids, we're actually in a hypnotic type of state, walking around in a dream world. And we're sucking up everything that we see without any filters. And so the things that happen to us, especially when there's an emotion attached to it, become implanted into our brain as a fact, whether it is or not. And so as a child, we just bring in all this information. We look at things that we like, we don't like, and especially the beliefs around the things that make us feel loved. So what our parents tell us is very, very important. So this all comes in, and about the age between 6 and 8, a switch goes off, and we go into the alpha state. And now we're making decisions consciously based on the beliefs that we had. Well, these beliefs go into our subconscious. Experts tell us that we have about 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and about 80% of them are subconscious, things we don't even realize that we're making decisions on or doing, like driving a car. You know, once you get to drive a car, then you don't have to think about driving a car. So whenever we're in a situation where we feel threatened, where things aren't going well, we just subconsciously bring out those beliefs. And so some of them serve us and some of them don't. The bad thing about beliefs, or the thing we have to watch about beliefs, is that sometimes in the past they served us, they kept us safe, they were kind of our parents' beliefs. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, especially as a child, we might have interpreted them wrong. And so, and I'll give you an example of this. So I remember the first time I felt poor, and that was watching my dad cut out cardboard cereal box to put in his shoe to cover a hole. Well, my interpretation as a child was that we didn't have any money, and he was sacrificing everything for us. But as I went through a process to have me start thinking about the beliefs and how different they could be, then I realized that my dad wasn't actually poor. He was making a decision about the shoe, that most of that shoe was good and it only had a hole in it. So he was just being frugal. And with 7 kids, you know, he had to be frugal. So all this time, my beliefs around money was that I was poor. And so I'd make a lot of money, and then I wouldn't have any money, and make a lot of money, and then I wouldn't. So that's how it can affect us as adults. Things that we don't even know come up for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So prior to the show, I asked you to come up with some beliefs or some memories that you had early on as a child, and I thought it'd be interesting for our audience just to understand what they could start looking at to examine their beliefs. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Ooh, good. So these are the beliefs that you gave me. At the age of 2, you remembered standing in the garden with your dad looking at snapdragons.
Yes, they were a kind of flower, and you could manipulate the petals so that it looked like a dragon's mouth opening and closing. And I remember thinking that was just so cool. At 2 years old, you're very easily amused, and I still am easily amused. But I remember thinking, like, that is just so cool. Like, my dad is awesome. And I just remember feeling very safe. Like, it was one of those nice kind of, like, yeah, this is good kind of moments.
Awesome. Awesome. You had quite a few of those. Opening Christmas gifts with cousins. But then you had some experiences that weren't so nice.
Yeah. Most people tend to have the odd not so fun experience.
Well, true. Very true. So one experience that you had at the age of 6 was that one day a classmate told me I was stupid. I told my mom, and she wasn't as sympathetic as I was hoping.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I don't remember the conversation with the student, but I remember crawling into the car after school, and I was just so upset and so angry. And my mom, and looking back on this, it was a teaching method for her. Mm-hmm. I said, this kid said that I was stupid. And she goes, so? And I was like, what? Like, you're not going to get mad about this? Like, I don't understand. And so looking back on it, it was her method of saying, are you stupid? Mm-hmm. Is he right? No, he's not right, because you know that you're smart and you know you can do things. Yeah. But at the time, I interpreted that as mom not caring or not really wanting to do anything about it, because I really wanted her to, like, march right into the school and march up to that kid and get her finger in his face and be like mama bear. But it wasn't until I was able to look back on that as an adult mm-hmm. or late teenager that I was like, oh, that was her teaching me.
Yeah. It's amazing sometimes we have those revelations later on, but as a child it's kind of...
Yeah, and it kind of threw me, because it wasn't how she would normally, like, react to something like that. Like, mm-hmm. normally we would talk it out a little bit more.
Right.
But just her reaction in that instance was just like, so?
Yeah. Well, are you open to seeing what kind of beliefs might be wrapped around that
yeah.
you might still be holding on to? Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a process. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to give me the answers, and we're going to take a look at what you believed when you were a child about that, and then we'll do some reflection on how that impacted you as an adult. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this process came up through Alfred Adler, and it's called actually the cycle of recreation. And here's the premise. The premise is that we have an experience in our life early on. We make a decision about that based on a feeling that transforms into a belief. And then from then on, we have expectations whenever we're put in a situation like that, or situations that evoke those feelings again. Does that mm-hmm. make sense? Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I'll take some notes, and then we'll talk about what it all means. Okay. So I want you just to go back to that experience again. You mm-hmm. I felt that you were really there when that happened. When you were talking about it.
Emotional recall.
So let me ask you, Janie, how did in that situation, as a child, not as an adult, but as a child, how do you feel about women?
I remember thinking that the women in my family were approachable. I could ask them questions. I could talk to them. But my approach was to be careful about what I said to perhaps teachers or women I didn't know very well who weren't in my immediate family. Okay. Not that I didn't trust my teachers or that they were not mm-hmm. worth asking questions of or worth having conversations with, but it was more of a question. It was like, if I say, like, I didn't want to say anything that would get me automatically shut down. Mm. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel about your mom?
I loved my mom, and I still adore my mom. I mean, as a kid, I
But
could...
just in that moment, but just in that situation.
Confused a little bit, a little angry, but more just like surprised, because that wasn't really her normal method of handling when people are upset.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we would be able to like talk that out, and she would be able to say, this guy is wrong, and you know he's wrong, so move on.
You had some sort of expectations around it, didn't you?
I kind of did.
Yeah. Something about a finger in the face?
Yeah. She doesn't, I mean, looking back on it, she would never have done that, but, you know, that was what I was hoping would happen, but...
Okay. So, in that situation, how'd you feel about men?
It was a male student, I remember, that said that.
Okay.
But it didn't really have anything to do with men at the time. I don't remember feeling any kind of animosity toward men, or...
Okay, well, how about just that student, that male student?
Didn't like him very much.
Okay. How did he make you feel?
Mad, hurt, embarrassed, because, you know, as much as we try not to listen to that little voice in the back of our head, the little voice was saying, what if he's right?
That's interesting. All right, so in that situation, because of that situation, I am
reserved, I think, a little bit more in at least what I say in public.
Did you feel that way as a child too?
A little bit. I think that might have, I mean, through our own discussions, we talked about that I was the quiet one. That might have had a little something to do with it.
Okay.
The question of, if I am going to look stupid when I say something, maybe I just shouldn't say something unless I absolutely know it to be a fact.
So you hold back? Or
Yeah,
you would hold back?
maybe.
Okay. So based on that situation, again, looking at it as a child, life is, in that situation?
Not all bad, but there's some... I mean, as a kid, it was just, you know, you're so upset, and it was just like the worst thing. But it was a bad day.
Okay.
The next day was fine.
But in that
moment, like, this is a bad day.
Okay. Anything else about life at that moment?
I remember thinking, I just want to go home and read a book.
Mm.
Because I just didn't want to deal with it.
Not to deal with it. Okay. Therefore, I must.
Therefore, I must figure out whether or not this guy's right. And I remember as a child just being angry. I don't really know that I decided to do anything about it.
How you said it made you feel reserved now.
It might
you
contribute
watched.
a little bit to that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is one of those beliefs that you have taken a look at from your mom's perspective. But, in our other conversations, you talked about being the quiet one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was another memory, too, that you had early on, which was about a cousin blew out my candles, therefore, before I could, and the adults did nothing but laugh. It's kind of the same type of situation where,
Yeah, I mean,
did
it
you
was,
feel-
looking back, it was like, really, I was going to get that bent out of shape over birthday candles. But at the time, I was like, dude, it's my day, man. Calm down.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of the way that their family functions. They do a lot. They do practical jokes. They goof around a lot, and it's just them. And no one had really explained, I guess, that this
They
is
were
how
gonna
your
do it.
family is. This is how Janie's family is. Just calm down. And looking back on it, I can kind of understand where that was coming from. He's just trying to be funny and all of this. But, when you're 6 years old, it's like, it's your day. And then suddenly the thing that you were really looking forward to doing is taken away from you. And it did make me very angry at the time. I mean, we laugh about it now. But I remember being really irritated with him at the time. Just come on, man, what are you doing?
So, Janie, why do you like to read?
It's an escape, above all. I do like reading classic literature and analyzing characters and things like that. I love literature classes in college, loved them. But it is first and foremost an escape.
Yeah. And when you get in stressful situations, what do you tend to do?
I tend to do what I did as a child, which was turn off the world and just be in a movie or a TV show or a book, which is probably not the healthiest way to manage stress or to handle a problem.
It's a way to manage
But
it.
it doesn't really take care of the problem, though. So it helps me cope, really. But on the other hand, it's also not a terribly healthy way because I'm not really dealing with the actual issue.
Right. So if we took a look at this then, and this whole process, and do you ever feel that limits you sometimes? That whole I gotta wait. I have to make sure I'm 100% right before I say anything. I might avoid the situation or.
In
not
some
react to it.
cases, yeah. I remember a couple of projects where, group projects, and you had to do a presentation in school. And they said, "Oh, well, we'll just wing it." And I'm like, no. I flipped out on this kid. I was like, we cannot just wing it. For my own sanity, we have to have at least a basic list of what we want to talk about. We can't just go up there. We can't just fire up a PowerPoint and then just go.
Right.
I can't function like that. So I think I was a little more forceful on this poor kid than he probably deserved. But at the time, I was just that was my own brain and my wanting to make sure that we had it right before we were going to be presenting this thing. That, and I also, as a journalist, you get told often about plagiarism. So I had the fear God put into me about plagiarism. So I was on this group about we have sources for this and we're including it. And they probably thought I just had a screw loose about all the detail I wanted to put into this. But it makes sense now, what we're doing here and talking about here. It makes complete sense to me now why I was so adamant that we had all this detail and have everything written down.
Yeah. And it just further reinforced
Yeah.
the things that you'd learned as a child, too.
Yeah.
So if you could feel that you didn't have to have all the details and it would still be okay, if you Oh, let's see. Let me read my notes here. If you could turn off that little voice in the back of your head, because I sense a reaction when that happens to you. I mean, each time your voice went up, and
Yeah.
and if you could just relax a little bit on that,
Yeah.
would that serve you?
I think if I could just, I mean, we all have that little voice in the back of your head that says, can you really do this? Are you really going to make it work? Are you, the little demons in the back of your head that just try to screw it all up, and actually, you can actually make yourself do worse by listening to them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You absolutely can. And I'm pretty good at telling them now, shut up. Like, I don't need you. But there still comes a time where I have those moments where I just completely wig out, and I'm like, am I really going to be able to, live by my pen? I'm a writer. Am I really going to be able to live by my pen? Am I going to be able to do all the things that I want to do with my life, like marry and have children and, have a family and all this? So, I mean, and I've found I can't let myself go there. I can't let myself listen to the voices, because if I do, it's going to make me it just makes you depressed. It's going to make you miserable. So that's what I've kind of found with that.
So if we could change those beliefs then, and get it so that you're more relaxed when you're in those situations, where you realize that it can actually paralyze you to have everything perfect, that it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
I think so. And I've had my share of failure.
Yeah.
I've had to redo classes before just because grades weren't good enough. So, yeah, I know what failure is.
Yeah.
I know what
Fail
failure
often is what, is what the great ones say. Fail
dear.
often. So what I'm going to do, Jamie, is I'm going to reframe these this evening, and then I'll send those to you. And here's the key. A lot of times in the world I live in, we talk about things like affirmations, that you repeat something over and over again, and eventually it gets into your subconscious and whatever. That works, but it takes a really long time, because what happens is the voice in your head says, oh no, that's not true. So what we're going to do is reframe the situation to have a different outcome, or so that you're not so hurt in that situation. And then I want you to start looking for evidence in your life today of the reframe. An old belief cannot be taken out without being replaced by a new belief. Doesn't work. So we're going to start looking for evidences every day. And at night, what I want you to do is just this little ritual. At night, what I like you to do is just in your journal or some piece of paper, just write, I am so grateful that this is going on in my life, that I've seen this evidence in my life. And start really looking for it. Okay? And that will help reframe it a little bit for you and help replace that belief. And we'll try and we'll check back and see if that worked or not. It's worked for me around my situation around money. Once I realized my dad was frugal and we weren't poor, we had everything that we needed. We were okay. And so I'll be okay no matter what. Yeah. So that gets me into talking about the attention part of the passion test. And you know I'm a passion test facilitator. And what I want to do in our next episode is actually take you through the passion test. And I hope you'll be able to do that, list out 10 or more things that's really important to you. And that's what passions is all about. Passions is about things that make your heart sing. They're things that you just get on fire when you're doing it. And passion is huge. It's just a huge part of a really fulfilled life. So I want to take you through the passion test, and we're going to learn what your top 5 passions are. Because when the most successful people in the world were interviewed, Janie, the commonality between them all is that they were living in their top 5 passions. So if we can start doing that, then we will be just like them. We'll be more successful. So we'll do that on our next show.
Okay.
If that would be okay with you.
Sure.
And I'll get back to you on the Adlerian method and come up with some other things.
It's very psychology.
That's
It's so
who he
interesting.
was.
And
Yeah.
if I could do college over again, I'd have done psychology. I think.
You know what?
Psychology and literature. It's like a weird combination. But
Life is a learning
it
experience. You
is.
should always
It's
keep
great.
on
I
learning.
mean, I joke with my family, if they could pay me to go to college, I'd go to college until the day I died. I loved school.
Guess what?
Not math, but I loved school.
You can still do that
Yay.
until you're 80, 90 years old.
Mhm.
So keep learning about these things because they are very important. And what, once we understand that we have a choice in what we have in our lives and what we think about and what we do, that we are co-creators with God, then we can have the life that we want. Isn't that cool?
Yay.
Yay, I love it too. So your homework is to come up with your list of top 10 passions. Please don't think that they have to be in your life 100% right now.
Okay.
They could be something that's that you want really badly in your life, that you know would make your heart sing. And don't say, well, I should or I couldn't, or if this happens, then that happens. Just start writing.
Okay.
Just start writing, and then we'll go through those. Awesome.
Yay.
So, did you have any other questions of me this time?
Not this session.
Really?
None that come to mind immediately.
Okay. Well, we will check up on what's going on.
Okay.
So for people in the audience, on our next show, we're going to go through the passion test. And if you'd like to go along with that and do it, you certainly can. Come up with your list of top 10 things that make your heart sing, that you feel really passionate about. Again, don't censor it. Just write it. And then the questioning that I'll take Jamie through will also apply to you as well, too. So you can take the test at home, which is really cool. So I think that's about a wrap for today. I want to thank Janie again for being here. She's my great guest guinea pig. I also want to thank the crew here at Access TV. They're just awesome. They're an awesome crew. And I want to thank you, my viewers. If you have any questions, please email me. The information will be in the credit. But most of all, I want to remind you that, you only have one life. Why not live it to its fullest and be the light that God intends for you to be? Thank you.